Be specific. It's not like you'll say, Father, forgive me, my girlfriend and I did this. And the priest will be like, you did what? I've never even heard of that. Is that even physically possible? What is that? Get out. No. He's heard it before. And then if that priest tells anyone in the world what you said in confession, he is excommunicated for breaking the seal of the confessional. And you may think, well, dude, I know this priest. I don't want to tell him. You could go to a different parish. I asked a priest once, what do you think of young people you know who come to you? You thought highly of them, and you found out that they made these mistakes. What do you think of them? He said, actually, I have such admiration of them for their courage and their humility to approach confession. I look up to that in them. And so realize to come to confession. Secondly, to come to the Eucharist, which is the fountain of purity. We go to Mass every day of the week because the purity that you get from the Eucharist doesn't take away your hormones, but it gives you love. So become intensely Eucharistic. Thirdly, and this is huge, devotion to Our Lady. This thing is the rosary, all right? It is the bomb, okay? Do you know when the atom bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, you know how many people lived in a 1-mile radius? 8 guys. These 8 guys lived 8 blocks from where the atom bomb went off. The wave of heat ripped through the city, and all that was left of people was their shadows, because the wave of heat would hit you, incinerate you, then leave on any standing structures the outline of where your body had been. So all that was left of people, except for these 8 guys who lived 8 blocks from where the bomb went off. And a total of 200 scientists came to examine these guys, found out that none of them had even been exposed to a trace of the radiation. This last weekend I was reading about a nuclear engineer for the Air Force and Navy said that at the point where their house was, the wave of heat would have been between 20,000 and 30,000 degrees Fahrenheit at a pressure of 600 pounds a square inch flying through the air. They said that it is physically, scientifically impossible to survive, and the guys didn't have a trace of radiation. Doctors, atheists, agnostics couldn't figure it out. They asked the guys, what do you think it was? And the guys said, well, it's pretty easy. They said the only reason why this house is standing as opposed to all around it is this is the house we pray a rosary in every single day. And if Our Lady can hook us up like that, I mean, as a guy, you look at the pornography, it takes like 20 seconds to look at it, then it takes like 20 years to forget what you saw. And for me, it was devotion to Our Lady that cleansed that stuff out of my head so I could properly look at a girl. So we have brought hundreds of rosaries to give out for free to you guys. We have brought hundreds of miraculous medals. Mother Teresa called these things spiritual bullets. You know, married people wear rings to remind them to be faithful. We wear these to remind us to be pure. So we brought hundreds of those, and we got a bunch of other little schnick-schnacks to give to you guys for free afterwards too. One is I wrote a little book called Pure Love, and so everybody gets a copy of Pure Love. That's going to be on both sides. We also made these little catalogs. If you don't get everything else, there's catalogs here. They got like books and tapes and jazz. They got T-shirts. I like the girls' T-shirts, not that I wear them, but they're sort of snarky. Like one girl's T-shirt says like, "I'm not playing hard to get, am hard to get." So that's in there. Then we made these little abstinence commitment cards. It's sort of like an ATM card, but you can't get any money out of it, sort of like mine. But you can sign it, you can date it. My friend got one of these in high school, met him in college. He was in high school, said, yeah, I'll save myself my bride, that's cool. Signs it, dates it, put it in his wallet. Got to my college, he met my friend Jenny. They fell in love, they started dating, they got engaged. Walking down the street, and his card falls out of his wallet. He's like, ooh. And she's like, what's that? He's like, nothing, give it to me. And she's like, no. And she runs off. And she goes, oh, a purity pledge card. And he's like, yeah. And she goes, I signed one of those in high school too. And he's like, for real? She digs into her purse, pulls out her card. They put them next to each other. They had signed the same type of card on the same year of the same month on the same day years before they ever met. Now, this isn't a coupon for a husband, but it's a good place to start. So we got a bunch of those. On top of that, I wrote a book called If You Really Love Me that just got published, and what we're going to do is, where's my beloved Shanaina here? You get the first free one, heads up, very good, close enough. And since you guys were generous enough to let us tape here, we've brought over 100 of those books to give you guys for free, so that's first come, first serve. But bigger gift than that, as of today, this is about the biggest gift I could give you. I have literally thousands of people who are praying for you. I have high schools in Washington and Oregon. I have 550 high school students at Marian Catholic High School down in San Diego praying for you. I have about 50 friends back home who are praying for you. I wrote a letter to 100 convents of nuns. That's like the ammo of the church right there. They are praying for you. I had lunch with AC Green this last week. He's a guy who played for the Lakers, practiced abstinence until marriage, and he has agreed to be praying for you guys. One better, I sent a letter to the Pope. The Pope has all these nuns that answers mail. It's sort of like the elves at the North Pole. It's the same concept. I wrote a letter. I said, dear nuns, I heard you get the Pope's mail. I said, I heard that if you get a really important prayer request, you'll give it to the Holy Father and he'll hook us up with some prayers. So dig this. Wrote a letter. Came back and said, Dear Mr. Everett, we've received confirmation through the Vatican that His Holiness Pope John Paul II is specifically praying for the young people that you speak to on chastity, that you're receiving the fruits of the prayers of that living saint. And all I would ask in return is a couple things. Number one, who do I want you guys to be praying for? Every high school, college student who's ever going to watch this video in those cameras, I beg this high school, and I've already asked those thousands of people to be praying for the people who will see those videos, and I ask the people who are sitting in your high school classrooms right now, your CCD classes watching this video, I want you to pray for all the other students who are watching it. Who knows? Your future bride, your future groom might be seeing the video someday. You never know what lifestyle they're in. I know a girl who's 14 years old, fell out of bed and freaked out. And she's like, I have to pray for my future husband. She's like 14 years old. Gets next to her bed, prayed for her future husband, yada, 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 went to bed. 10 years later, she met this guy. They fell in love. They got married. And she said, honey, I prayed for you one night when I was 14. And he's like, cool, thanks. She's like, So she goes to her diary, pulls it out, says, look, there it is, the middle of the night I prayed for you. And he said, I used to have a journal back then. Let me see what I was doing. Opens his journal up, dusts it off. He starts flipping through, and he goes, I know that was the time of the year that I was in the war, because he was a veteran. Started flipping through, found the exact night, and then he falls silent. And she said, honey, what does it say? And he said, honey, the night that you prayed for me was the night when the enemy troops came across our lines. They slaughtered almost every man in my platoon, and they spared me. So, thanks for your prayers. Prayers are good. Prayers are good. So I would beg your prayers, not only for all the students to see this, but actually also for Crystaline and I in our marriage, which is coming up. We ask your prayers for that as well. And the last thing, thank you very much. But now, one of the last things we want to leave with you guys is we're going to offer your school something called the Pure Love Club. It's chastity. It's not like an abstinence bereavement group. You like get together at lunch and you're like, did you have sex? No. Do you have sex? No. Let's hug. This is basically, we're raising up an army around the country of people who are spreading this message through their schools, and we'll leave the guidelines of this club with the school, the club at your school. And if you're watching the video, you can go to our website and find the guidelines for the club there. Questions and all the materials and stuff that we gave out are going to be there on that website also. Now, we've been able to explain certain things today, but the one thing I know we can't explain to you honestly is the peace and the joy that come from chastity. It's worth more than all the pleasures of the world. And when you bring the gift of purity into a relationship, you bring Christ into the relationship, and there's so much peace, and that purity will be your super glue. You will have romance without regret, and you can fall in love for the right reasons. If there is only 60 seconds I have to speak to you today, this is the only thing I would even bother telling you. That if after this talk, your heart is a little heavy, you've got some thinking to do, all you have to know is one thing, and that is how God looks at you for doing that stuff. And this is how God sees you. A dad a few years ago dropped his son off at preschool in Armenia. He said, I love you, Armando. I'll pick you up after school. Promise to get you. Kiss his son. He goes, promise come get you, bud. Dad drove to work. Huge earthquake struck.